I'm doing a bit of a road trip on my own this weekend, so I thought I'd bring my camera and practice doing a little bit of vlogging. I wish I could say that I was traveling for a bit of a fun reason, but unfortunately that's not the case. My grandmother passed away this previous weekend, so I'm traveling back home to where I grew up so that I can go to the funeral and the visitation and be with my family during this time. I didn't feel like spending too much money on this trip, so I'm doing what I can to kind of reduce my costs of travel. I've brought myself an electric kettle, a bunch of fancy ramen packets, as well as a Stanley camping bowl, so that I can cook most of my meals in the hotel. I grabbed a few extra things from Target, such as some half and half, and some juice to help kind of fill things out a bit further. I was hoping to find some dehydrated veggies over at Target, but I am not having any luck finding dehydrated veggies in any sort of grocery store. I may have better luck at an Asian grocery store, but the closest Asian grocery store to here is about 30 minutes away. So I've finished my dinner, and it sounds like my family's probably not going to be doing anything tonight. So I'm going to go out for a special treat from my childhood, and I'm going to bring you all with me. So Bobby's used to have a apple pie concrete, and that is what I got all of the time because I loved apples and I loved ice cream and I love caramel. You know, honestly, not much has changed. But it seems like they've gotten rid of the name, but probably not the concrete itself, because they had something that looked suspiciously similar that is called the Caramel Apple Crunch Sundae, and I asked if they could make it into a concrete, which is like their custard shakes, and they did. And adding to my suspicions that they just renamed it, when the clerk called it out back in the shop, she just said a pie concrete, so they knew what was up. I am so excited for this. This is absolutely my favorite treat from childhood, or at least one of. So I'm excited to dig into this, and I will talk to you later. You know, there are so many reasons that I wish that Ash was with me right now. This is kind of a major family event, and all that jazz. But I'll tell you what, the main reason that I wish they were here with me was so they could have some of this. I know they would love it, and I wish I could share it with them right now. So I'm gonna have to mark this on the list to bring them back to when we come back home sometime. It is the morning of the next day, and I am meeting up with my family for lunch today before services. But before I go see them, I want to see about getting a car wash for my car, because it's a little bit gross. Ash and I live in a pretty swampy area of Michigan out in the woods, so it's not uncommon for our car to look pretty scuzzy. And honestly, I'm usually not too bothered by it. I would love for it to be cleaner usually, but like, it's not a big deal. However, my parents gave me this car, and since I'm going to be seeing them a bit later today, I'd like to show them that I'm at least somewhat taking care of it. It's certainly not perfect, but it's a lot better. You can see there's still plenty of scuff up there, plenty of scuff up on the roof. But, you know, I only did get the basic wash instead of the full thing, and things are still a lot better along the sides, so I feel okay about that. I think if I wipe things down, it'll look great. I don't know that I'll do that before lunch, but yeah, it'll look great. Just got out of visitation services for my grandmother. And you know, I honestly didn't think that I'd be vlogging any part of this activity because it's deeply personal. You know, it's a family thing. But this experience was somewhat different than I imagined it to be. So, give you context. My grandmother was 88 when she died. And she was one of the younger ones of her siblings. A lot of people have died before she has died. And my family, as it is aging. You know, like everyone's family, I suppose. But, like, we have had a few younger additions. But honestly, not that many. My family is kind of a dying branch. And, you know, me and my cousin, her grandchildren were there, and we were standing around talking, and there's something really existentially depressing and a little bit distressing about being some of the youngest direct members of this family and, you know, not having families of our own. Not that I feel any responsibility to have a family in this way or, you know, anything along those lines, but it is wild to see everyone just aging around you and kind of falling apart, and everyone talking about how sick they are and how disabled they are. It's hard. It's absolutely hard. I'm glad that my family's talking about it. My family has a long history of not talking about things, and that's not super helpful. But at the same time, I know that one of the reasons that my family is talking about it now is because they are hurting so bad. Like, they are hurting an immense amount. And that sucks. And it feels just really depressing to watch everyone just kind of falling apart slowly, and sometimes not so slowly. Just got back to my hotel, and I am deeply grateful. Not that today wasn't good for what it was, but I am very happy to be back in my hotel. There was a big highway wreck on my way in that just looked particularly bad and particularly recent. So I'm honestly really glad that I took the time to vlog outside of the funeral home, because if I hadn't, maybe I would have been in that wreck, and I'd rather not. So that's great. That's pretty much it for the night for me. I'm going to sit down, have a little bit more ramen, and call it a night. I will talk to you all in the morning. It is the morning of the funeral, and in a little bit I've got to go head down to the cemetery where my grandmother is being buried. I wanted to get outside though and do a little bit of sitting. My hotel room is fine, but it's cheap as well, and so it's not the most comfortable place, especially because some of the room appliances are just really loud and I get overstimulated really easily. So I figured it might be nice to sit out in the sun for a little bit and get ready to go. I don't know what we're gonna do after going to the funeral. I know I'm going over to my parents' place because they want to give me like a fire safe for like important documents and stuff that my grandparents had and they don't need. So I'll be going over to grab that. And then after that, it really depends on what time it is and whether or not I'm going to try to get home tonight, or if I'm going to do the probably safer option of just leaving early in the morning tomorrow. I really wish that it felt more feasible to get home tonight. We have a ritual of going to the farmer's market every Saturday morning, and we're probably not going to be able to go to the farmer's market next weekend because that's going to be the weekend of our wedding. And so it would have been really nice to be able to go and see our farmer's market friends this weekend and stock up on, you know, quality produce and quality food, and just have that whole experience before having to get into crunch time for wedding prep. So, you know, we'll see. In any case, I should probably get myself ready. I've got about an hour before I have to get over to the cemetery, but still, I'd rather be on my way sooner rather than later. Also, I saw this sign and definitely had to sit next to it to film for a little bit because my grandparents' last name is Rock. So since we're burying my grandmother, it just felt kind of appropriate. Gotta love a good old war memorial. You know, I was talking with one of my distant family members, someone I hadn't met at the visitation yesterday, and he was a 90-year-old man, 91, who served in the Korean War. And he had a lot of things to say that whole time, but one of the things that he talked about was the fact that he served in Korea and got the, you know, VA healthcare plan and everything else. And last month, he broke his leg. Just had a fall, as sometimes happens when you're older and walking around. And yeah, he broke his leg and the VA wouldn't cover it. Like, his VA healthcare plan just wouldn't cover it. And I asked him why, and he said, well, it didn't happen in Korea, so they don't care. They don't really care what happens to him after he's gotten back. And I just think that it's really sad that, you know, Americans like to make a really big show of making monuments and making statements and doing all these things to say, oh, we support our troops. We're, you know, we're very pro-veteran, like veteran-owned businesses and whatever else. But like, when it comes to the actual people, when it comes to the people who need help, they're on their own. And that seems like, I don't know, hypocrisy of the highest order. Like, what is it about caring about the actions that these people took and trying to justify and glorify the actions that these people took and the part of the military that they were in, but not actually taking care of the people? What's with that? Honestly, I have that frustration with a lot of things in American society. I feel like we do a lot to pay lip service to things and really talk in very grandiose terms when we're talking about, you know, our culture as a whole, our culture as a nation. But it's one of those things that, like, there's a lot of talk and not a lot of action, you know? Or the talk that we put is completely opposite of the action that we take. And it's always rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I'm a very honest, straightforward person. A lot of very much no nonsense. And, you know, okay, so I've worked with international businesses for quite a long time now, right? I'm currently working at an international company, and I've worked at a few international companies in the past. And I've always gotten these warnings that, like, oh, you travel to other countries and they're not like here, you know? You got to do things differently. People are more blunt, you know? People are ruder. They don't have the sort of like American politeness. And you know what I found? People in these other countries that I've gone to, they just don't lie to me. They're just straightforward and honest, just like I am, you know? For traits that like mark me as autistic here in America, just seems to be kind of like mostly common elsewhere. At least, you know, this part of it, people are much less likely to just smile and nod at you, to pretend that they support you when they don't. And you know what? I'll take that. I'll take that over the lies. So I just arrived at the cemetery where my grandmother is being buried, and I have to say I found something that has immediately tickled my humor. This is really great. So right here, it might be a little hard to see, is the Sunset Hills Funeral Home. The cemetery is right over there, and for convenience, right over here is a trampoline park. So, you know, you can spend a whole day with the family. Take the kids out to see the grandparents, and then once you're done there, take them over to the trampoline park. What a great location. I have absolutely no idea where I'm meeting folks. So, and I'm still quite a bit early. I'm like at least 45 minutes early, if not an hour early. So I'm not too worried about it. But for the time being, I think I'm just gonna do a little bit of wandering. My grandparents were remarkably prepared people. I was told last night that my grandmother had arranged her own flowers for her funeral in 2014, 10 years before she passed. Which I cannot imagine trying to work with a florist to be like, yes, sometime in the future, can you please hold on reserve this arrangement for 10 years possibly? That seems like an insane request, and I don't feel like I could ever make that to someone. But that is a testament to how prepared my family is. However, that's not the most prepared that my grandparents were. See, they bought not 2, but 4 plots in this cemetery in 1958. 1958 is before my mother, the oldest of their children, was even conceived. And they bought 4 plots so that not only would they be set for having, you know, grave sites when they needed them, that my mom and her sister would also have graves when they needed them. Regardless of anything else going on. So, yeah, extremely, extremely prepared people. And honestly, I'm kind of grateful because, like, this does, for whatever it means less work for me in the future. Because as far as my parents are concerned, their arrangements are already made. My dad is like me, doesn't want anything fancy or special, really doesn't want people to make a fuss, wants to be cremated and, you know, whatever's cheap and easy and convenient. And then my mom's already taken care of. And eventually they want to be buried together. So that works. I'm all right with that. I'm kind of glad that I don't have to worry about it, because I'm watching a lot of people worry about it right now. I'm watching a lot of people having to go through making arrangements for other people and having to deal with some of this end-of-life stuff, and it doesn't look particularly fun, you know? It's something that's got to be done, but it doesn't look fun, not in the slightest. And I'm sure that when it comes down to it, I will have plenty of things to take care of between here and there. So I'm not going to say no to having one more thing taken off my list. It is absolutely a beautiful day to have services outside. Honestly, I'm really hoping that next weekend the weather is just this perfect, because like I would like it to not be too hot or too rainy for my wedding. But this is definitely perfect weather for when you have to be outside. So I'm very grateful. I'm sure that some people are going to be a little bit miffed that I'm out here vlogging in a cemetery, because I'm sure that feels at least somewhat disrespectful. And you know, I'll be honest, I haven't always been the best at figuring out what disrespect means. My own social mores are just a bit different than what it seems like society's social mores are, which is inconvenient at times. But I want to say that for this, I don't feel quite as bad about filming, because I'm not doing stupid stunts. I'm not doing things just for, you know, the views or whatever. I'm finally trying to tell the story of my family, you know, and that includes death. That includes all of this point. And so, you know, I figure I don't have a lot of records of myself or of my family. So what better time to start making some than, you know, when we're getting the family together to, you know, celebrate a life and to mourn a tragedy. My dad was telling me yesterday just how many people I'm related to in this region of the world, and specifically this region of Illinois, to the point that it feels like, you know, you throw a stone and you'll hit one of my relatives, or at least one of my distant relatives. So it makes me wonder, how many people in this massive cemetery am I actually related to? How many of these people are my family? Because from both my dad and my mom's side, which are very different, we're related to a lot of people around here. My family traditionally hasn't moved around a whole lot. So we just kind of spread out. That makes me wonder, you know? The place that we're going to for lunch today after the funeral, as you can see behind me, is Pantera's Pizza. And it's not a place that I would go to often as a kid, but it is a place that I do remember loving. My grandparents would take me out here every so often, and this is a pizza place that is unlike any other that I've ever been to. It is, if I remember correctly, a pizza buffet. And not only did they have all sorts of types of regular pizza, they also had like fruit dessert pizza, and it was the first place that I've ever seen to do like a fruit dessert pizza, and they did it really, really well. I'm hoping the food quality is very much what I remember, because it is delicious. So let's go in and have a bite to eat with my family. It is amazing how much memory colors your perceptions of a place. The food was fine. It wasn't like great like I remembered it being. But like what really changed for me was like the space inside. Like when we used to come here when I was a kid, it felt like a really, really big place where they had like blackout curtains on the window and like 2 huge buffets of pizza. And you know, maybe it's bigger for dinner instead of lunch. Maybe we came out for dinner, though I could have sworn we only came out for lunch in the past because, you know, it's cheaper. But yeah, it was just very different from what I remembered as a kid. And I absolutely know that has to do with how like memory is processed and stuff. Just real interesting. I am back at my hotel. And as much as I was hoping that I would have the energy and the time to possibly leave a little bit early and travel home tonight so that me and Ash could go to the farmer's market in the morning, it's already like 3 here, which means it's 4 o'clock at home, and it's something like a 6.5-hour drive without stops. So I don't think it's wise for me to travel home tonight. So I will probably just focus on finishing editing this vlog and then take off as early as possible as I can tomorrow so that I can get home as soon as possible, because I miss home and I'm looking forward to traveling back. So I guess I will see you on the other side. In case I don't finish out this vlog further, thanks for hanging with me as I go to this family funeral and as I practice a bit of vlogging.